Ride the Wave Media and novel Daybreak by Crescent Communities present The Witch Movie Project.
Alright, howdy folks. I am Just Blane, Bob Briggs. Most of you don't know who Joe Bob Briggs is, so you sure as hell don't know who I am. Right? But hey, we're having fun, and this is the Witch Movie Project. Me and Courtney put this thing together about 6 months ago or so.
Oh, yeah.
Started talking about this, and it just happened.
I got roped in.
She got roped in. It wasn't hard because all we did was really talk about a bunch of witch movies, and she is Daybreak's local witch. So it was very easy for me to say, hey, would you like to watch some witch movies and talk about them with me?
Yes.
And that was her answer.
Absolutely,
That was
yes.
it. That was all it was because we didn't have to ask much more. Now, I got to say, though, that this was a selfish project of mine. Because this, for one, is Joe Bob Briggs. This is my ultimate homage to him. Best it gets. Sorry, Joe Bob, if you're watching. But Joe Bob Briggs is a horror movie host. He started doing this a long time ago on TNT for Monster Vision. He's been doing it longer than most of us in here have been alive. Actually, yes, longer than all of us have been alive. I just had to look around the room. But this is something that he's been doing is basically hosting movies. So yes, selfish project of mine. And I brought her into it because I watch these movies anyway. Don't you? Like, is this?
Oh, yeah. I love movies. So sign me up.
Now, out of the ones that we did though, Courtney, which was your favorite? That's a hard one.
Now, that's really hard because I had favorites that I had picked. When we made our list, we did like a master list, right? All of our favorite witch movies and stuff. Some of them didn't even make it on the final roster, but I had my favorites already picked out. I was like, practical magic, you can't go wrong, right? Who loves practical magic? Woo! Give me a woo woo. Midnight margaritas. So my favorites, right? I mean, that's not too horrible, not too horror scary, like real tame, real realistic as far as what I think witches really are like. But then I had to watch a bunch of movies I was really uncomfortable with and then loved them once I watched them. So now to pick a favorite would be like a favorite of which kind?
It's tough
So
because
many different good ones.
here's the thing, we had family movies in there and we had the scariest of scary. Now, if I had my way, let me go on a little rant here. If I had my way, you know what we was shown tonight, and I had to get talked out of this by everybody that there was, but I wanted to show the autopsy of Jane Doe. But nah, some people said, oh, she's too naked. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, well, nobody thinks about that because she's getting cut open. Nobody's thinking about there's a naked woman on the table. I wanted to show that, and I might still show it. I'm the one with the remote here, Courtney.
Yeah. Sorry, kids. Y'all are gonna have to close your eyes and not watch. Yeah, it was a little bit too off the cliff as far as the witch movies go. And I thought, let's rein it back in and let's pick one that is just creepy enough to be like, wait, what is going on here? And also in the family-friendly movie genre.
Now, this movie has got ties to witches because it's got one of the most famous witches, right? The Wicked Witch.
Witch of the West.
Now, if you haven't seen Return to Oz is what we're talking about here, it says fantasy, action, and adventure. They forgot to put horror on there because this movie is completely creepy in all kinds of ways. Now, you got to think about this. This is made in 1985. 45 plus years after The Wizard of Oz. So for a long time, somebody get the door, please. So for a long time, this had the record for longest years between sequels until another movie came out called Bambi 2, which none of you guys saw that either. But you definitely haven't seen The Return to Oz. But you got to see this. And me and Courtney started talking about it. We said, why do they need to see this movie? It's tied to witches, but this is the sequel to Wizard of Oz, and soon we've got Wicked coming out. So we wanted to make sure that everybody was up to par on their Wizard of Oz knowledge.
A lot of people thought when this came out, they were like, oh, this is not it, right? Because they're used to Judy Garland. I mean, everybody loves The Wizard of Oz, came out in 1939. Everybody loves that version, right? Everybody loves it. But it's not as close to the novels. And a lot of fans of this movie love it because it's a little bit more close to what L. Frank Baum had made when he wrote the novels. And it does combine quite a few of the books in the series into one movie. So you kind of have to set aside your Judy Garland version.
Yeah.
And you have to appreciate this for what it is all by itself, right?
Now here's the book here, guys. I got an original copy of this thing. You see this? This has got like library prints and stuff. This is really, really old. But you can see right here, this thing is already creeping me out. Now I'm going to sit here. We're going to read this entire book. Now,
I said really old.
I'm just kidding, guys. I'm not going to sit here and make you read the entire book.
1985
But
was
what
my
I'm going to
year I
do
was
is,
born.
this movie is set in about 1899. So even though it's 40 plus years after the original movie, it's only 6 months after Dorothy has went to Oz in movie time. So you got to think they're here in the 1899, 1900s. Let me go in and talk about the economy back then, in the 1800s. Is that okay, Courtney? You think I can go off on a rant here?
You can't not talk about it.
Huh?
It's,
No, I'm not going to talk about that either. But the movie Return to Oz, Fairuza Balk, she had to be terrified out of her mind, just being on set the whole time. It's no wonder that she has kind of quit acting and disappeared now. This movie probably still scarred her.
you think this is the one?
This is probably the one out of all the ones that she did. But You're right, if you're expecting the Judy Garland, Dorothy, cheery, happy, this ain't it. So you're allowed to leave now for my live audience, and you're allowed to stop watching if you're looking at home. But what do you think, Courtney? Should we start it up?
All right.
And what we're going to do, so let's start the movie, but what we're going to do is we'll stop the movie down every once in a while, and we'll talk for a couple more minutes. But we're going to let it run for a while. Now, I'm telling you, I hope nobody here has nightmares tonight. You see a lot of crazy stuff in here. I mean, they're going to go electroshock therapy right off the beginning. I don't know if we should have kids in here watching this. But let's go see this
They
thing.
think Dorothy is crazy.
And let's start it up. Now, people, are you? No, I said we're going to stop it. That's what we're here for. We're still taping a podcast also. So we're 40 minutes into this movie. And let's just go through a list here, because electroshock therapy is not the worst thing we've seen yet, not the weirdest thing. We've seen a talking chicken. TikTok. What the hell is TikTok?
Yeah, the original. The
original TikTok, yeah. Let me throw this out there for you, though, because I do want to put this out. Gymnast Michael Sundin actually stood upside down with his legs bent and backwards and walked to make TikTok.
Oh, wow.
Now, Courtney, now Courtney's going to demonstrate how he did that for us here.
Not
So
this
it
corset.
says stood upside down with his leg backward. I'm just telling you now that
That's
this is
amazing.
just the tip of the iceberg of the weirdness. Now, you saw the Wheelers. I think they took the place of the Flying Monkeys. I'm not sure. The Wheelers
Yeah.
are way more disturbing than the Flying Monkeys.
I didn't find any reference of Wheelers in the books.
Nah, I think that's something they found out. They found a costume at the dump. You know, they got it out of the scrapyard there, because the wheels look like something off of a stroller or something. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, it kind of looks fun. I want to try it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you like hold the wheels in the front with your arms and then you like wheel around. It's kind of like rollerblading, but with all four limbs. I think it looks like fun. I would try it.
only her. Now
We're
let
gonna
me
make a gang.
let me tell you this
All
too. So I'm going to throw this fact out there too, because Judy Garland was 16 years old when she made The Wizard of Oz. Now, Fairuza's only 10. She's 10 years old. This is her first major movie. She beat out 10,000 plus people to get this role. They said there were 600 people in Vancouver alone.
Oh, I believe it.
And they saw her and they said, yes, this is it. And I think they nailed it. I really do. I think Fairuza plays a great Dorothy here, even though she's 6 years younger than our original Dorothy.
Yeah, and I would like to point out Aunt Em was much younger than the original Aunt Em in the 30s film. I mean, I imagine she was somewhere in like her 50s or 60s in the original movie, and then this one was more like my age, I want to say. So
Well, there
bit of difference there.
There were only 2 actors that were still alive from the original when this one came out.
This one came out.
And one of them was the main flying monkey. Maybe he's the one that said, you know what, no more flying monkeys. We're not doing that.
So offensive to me.
But let's get back to the movie. But before we do, I got to point out here too that the violence. This movie, I believe, has the highest body count out of all the movies we picked. And we had Blair Witch Project, we had The Witch, Suspiria, maybe Suspiria beat it, I don't know. We had
there's a lot of bodies in Suspiria.
Yeah, what other movies did we have? We had quite a few others, but I believe this one has the highest body count. You saw a TikTok over there. He whooped ass. He just whooped ass. That gymnast in there upside down. But let's get back at it.
Finally got that house done.
There it is. There's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, well, is it just me, or is anyone else attracted to Jack Pumpkinhead? I think he's pretty cute. I thought he was kind of cute. But that is my husband over there, so that maybe is why.
Well,
he's playing Jack tonight.
Jack Skellington, but let's not get it twisted because Tim Burton definitely took inspiration for Jack Skellington from Jack Pumpkinhead. I mean, it's obvious. How could you not? It's the same figure. Am I right?
Yeah. You can see it.
Now, there's a lot, though, to unpack. I want to talk about the Gump.
Yeah, okay.
Like, what the hell is the Gump?
It's a
Now,
moose,
they put
right?
together this bed, some palm fronds, and a Gump head. Now, palm fronds, that's really, that's what the leaves are. That's called fronds, yeah. Now, a Gump is not real, though, but fronds are.
Okay.
I think a Gump is a made-up fictional character that they've made just for this because I don't think I've ever run across a Gump.
Yeah.
No? You have somebody? Oh, Amanda has. Okay. Okay, that's close enough. So
She's
there
come
is
across
a
a Gump before.
Yeah. So.
Run, Forrest. Oh wow! Coincidences all over the place.
So that scene with the Gump and the flying thing—that was one of Walter Murch's favorite parts to film. Now, Walter Murch was the director of this film. Now, that was also the hardest part of the movie to film, which makes sense for Walter Murch because he got fired from directing this movie, about in the middle, early on actually, because he was taking so long to film. Until George Lucas and Steven Spielberg came to his rescue, literally, and said, no, you got to give this guy a shot to direct this movie.
That's
so
nice.
They put in a word for him, and he came and directed this thing. And as of October 31st, 2024, this is the only movie he has directed.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if it scarred him that bad, if the experience scarred him that bad, or if he just said, you know what, that's as good as it gets.
Kind of a perfectionist, maybe?
Maybe.
It just took too long because he needed all the details to be just perfect.
But he got it together, I think, and what they put out here is definitely, it's a cult classic.
Yeah. Oh, and it's definitely coming back. You can watch it in movie theaters now. People bringing it back.
I saw it at Broovies. We saw a poster for it at Broovies here in downtown Salt Lake. So it is
Yeah, a
coming
lot
up
of people
now.
are fans.
What else do you got to say about this movie here, Courtney, before we wrap this
If
thing
you're
up?
wondering why it's a witch movie, Princess Mombi is actually a witch, and in the books, in the second novel, she is a witch Mombi. She's like the Wicked Witch of the West. Clearly, taking her heads off, switching out heads. I mean, that's not something a princess would do. Am I right?
It's witches things.
Witches.
You do that.
Yeah.
You swap out heads
If I
at
could
night?
swap out heads, I would. If I could go younger head, yep, I'll take it. I would do it. Yeah. So in the second novel, though, they had, it was an orphan boy named Tip is the protagonist of that film. And he's the one that makes Jack Pumpkinhead to scare the witch Mombi, like Jack says in this movie. So just interesting that they pulled together a lot of things from the different Oz books. So if you're young, you like reading, I might recommend getting the original series of the Oz books and reading them. And if you're older, you enjoy older novels, more mature, the Wicked series is really, really good. Very mature, but it kind of takes that whole legend of Ozma and the explanation of why animals talk, and it takes another kind of political turn with it, and it's really amazing. It's a great series. This is the last one of the series, Out of Oz. I've read all of them. Wicked, Son of a Witch, Lion Among Men, and...
Watch your mouth. Watch your language there. Oh, you said Son of a Witch.
Son of a Witch. They're over there. Those guys over there, they're sons of witches.
The Sons of Witches over there.
Those sons of witches.
Now, you got final thoughts on this movie? A lot, huh?
A lot of final thoughts. But first of all, who we did in
The Craft?
The Craft, I mean, I think to tie it all together, that's my takeaway, is she did an amazing job. She's just a little girl. I was a little skeptical at first, being like, really? She's Dorothy? I don't know about this.
Yeah.
And I'll give it a shot. Watched it, and I was like, I love her. She's so cute. And she really does an amazing job. The acting, I think she does a great job.
She does. She's wonderful. She's amazing. She's awesome. I loved her in this movie. Thank you to the one-time and only-time director for making this movie.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, though, what the real horror is, and this is my final thought, and it's Disney's marketing department. This film was about as well promoted as a county fair and a thunderstorm. Like, really, it was. Like, that's what it was. And you got to think, it came out in the 80s. You got neon colors and pastel and all that, and then here comes this dark fantasy. So they really didn't know what the hell to do with it. And it's more Tim Burton than it was Walt Disney at a time when Tim Burton went around. Like, he wasn't doing this kind of stuff yet. So I got to say that's well. Yeah. So on that, the final note for me is this is a cult classic. It is remembered because it dared to be different. All you kids, listen. Dare to be different at everything you do, because you can't get any weirder than this, okay? Thank you, guys. Now it's time. We didn't tell the people here that this is actually a double feature, and we're going to watch Hereditary now. That's A24's movie, Hereditary. Or did you have other plans for the Hereditary movie?
Well, actually, you're going to have to meet me at a certain location.
Oh, man.
And this one's going to be on location.
I'm a little worried about that.
I'm going to send you the address.
And I'll meet you there. We got to wear the same clothes, or what? Are we going straight there? What's happening?
Oh, we'll see.
That's interesting. All right. Now, I'm a little worried about this. So we're not going to watch Hereditary here with the kids and stuff?
Yeah, no. This one is one I had to watch through my fingers.
It's a great family movie, though. I mean, it's all about family.
It is all about family.
Yeah.
That's Hereditary, yeah. It's all about family. But
all right, let's get out there and see. Now, Courtney, where have you led me to?
Does this look familiar to you at all? Maybe the cemetery.
I'm a little concerned. This looks really familiar. Now, and you know what though? As I was driving up today, it was supposed to be warm, sunny. Closer I got, it got colder over here. It got darker.
Yep. I think it was like dark clouds rolled in right over us.
Am I looking at? This is where they filmed the funeral scene for Hereditary, is it not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we
have the cemetery over here on our other side. And the view of the mountains.
Are we sitting on bodies?
It's possible.
It's possible. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, with all due respect.
Now, we don't want to name where this cemetery is, but we do want to say thank you to them for being, it's beautiful out here, but
it's no wonder that they like this location for filming, because the mountains are awesome.
They are.
And I wondered when watching it, because I didn't know, but the mountains and things, it looked like Colorado. And I kept thinking, maybe they filmed this in Colorado? But I think Ari Aster likes Utah.
Ari Aster really liked Utah right here. And there's, like you said, he had to. This movie, we tried to find a through line for Return to Oz and for Hereditary. And honestly, we just picked these two movies because, I mean, it was, Return to Oz was creepy. We wanted to do it. Yeah. And then we had Hereditary, and she had never seen Hereditary. And Novel Daybreak recommended Hereditary, which honestly, we shouldn't say that because an employee at
one
Novel
of the employees
recommended Hereditary. So
he's like, I love horror movies. You guys are doing Hereditary, right? And we're like,
Well, actually, no, we didn't have it on the list, but we had to give it a second look, right?
Yeah.
Because, well, let's figure out where this fits in. And it may have felt like we threw these two movies at the very end, like we wanted them on the list, we wanted to do them, but we weren't sure where they fit in, so we threw them together. But as we were watching Return to Oz Saturday at our live event, I was like, there's a lot of headless stuff going on here.
Yes.
So I think there is a through line.
I think you looked at me at one point and you're like, that's it. And we both looked at each other because we said, you know what? Hereditary's got a lot of different kinds of headlessness that comes up. Now, this movie, if you haven't seen it, it's feel good. It's a laugh a minute, right? It's a great flick.
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
Oh, yeah. Family.
Smiling ear to ear when you're watching this movie. Am I right?
Beautiful, loving family, lives in a beautiful mountain range home.
It's all fun and
Got
games.
an awesome tree house.
Right,
What
but
more could you ask for?
if
Great American family.
if your idea of a good time revolves around heart palpitations and sweating, then yes, you'll enjoy this movie.
Yeah.
But it's another A24 film, and it is a miserable watch. Once again,
Yeah.
which is a common theme in the A24 movies. And hey, I mean that in the best kind of way, because the atmosphere, everything from the beginning of this movie is we're sitting here.
Fantastic.
It feels there's an atmosphere even sitting here. I mean, we are in a cemetery, so
Which is where I find a lot of peace and comfort.
It is.
Personally.
it is peaceful out here.
Yeah.
Not that part though. Not. You can already tell in the beginning of this movie that, you know what? Did you have some more thoughts on Return to Oz? Because
Well, I will say, so the headless part.
yeah.
I remember, so we kind of showed at the event the little golden books they had of Return to Oz. I used to have one when I was a kid. And this may speak to my morbid fascination with things. I don't know. But I remember being obsessed with that book. I remember looking at the pages so carefully, the cabinets full of heads.
Oh.
And then the part where they're screaming. So they had an illustrated version of these heads and they're like, mouths are open. I remember staring at that. I was probably 5 years old and I was just like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
And I had never seen the movie,
Mm.
not then. So I was like, I don't know what this is, but this is not the Wizard of Oz that I know.
Yeah, right.
And I'm looking at it real hard and I kept thinking, am I allowed to look at this? Is this okay? I'm a kid. But I was fascinated with the headless heads and the Princess Mombi chasing her with no head.
Oh yeah.
And they're all screaming, Dorothy Gale, Dorothy Gale. It is scary. A lot of adults there that night said, yeah, I could never watch this movie when I was a kid.
I mean, even the kids there. I mean, they had their mouths open. I saw yours at one point
Yeah, I
over
took
there.
some pictures of my kids.
That was wild. What was it? The Wheelers got them?
Maybe.
I think it
Maybe some
was.
Wheelers. Maybe just the whole dark kind of feel of the film, maybe that had about it. They were just they were fascinating.
And if you
They were
thought that was dark, it's not as dark as this.
this one, no. No, and
Maybe
I
it
have many
is.
people who were like, oh yeah, I like horror movies. And then I mentioned this one and they're like, oh, couldn't do that one. Couldn't
This
watch
one,
that.
now, you know what? This one, it's got a weird backstory with the movie itself, because at first it didn't have the horror elements and it was just going to be a drama. And I believe that Ari and whoever else involved wrote in the demon and stuff, and you'll get more. We'll get more.
Yeah,
in-
deep dive into that.
Yeah, into what's the demon's name?
Paimon.
Paimon. All right.
That's how I say it. I think that's how I say
Paimon.
it. Paimon.
Paimon. But this
Yeah.
is right from the beginning, and you have. We did a pumpkin walk and we saw a pumpkin with miniatures, and me and Courtney both were like, "Oh no, we're not getting close to that thing," because the
Yeah.
opening shot of this movie is like it's a miniature and it's tied into the movie big time later. But it's a miniature, and you have a
Zooms in.
long slow zoom, and then there's that cool transition
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
it goes to real people walking in, and you got the real stuff going on, and
Very symbolic of like, we're going into this other world. This isn't reality exactly, but kind of, I don't know, but it's so like the miniatures themselves throughout the movie, they're so realistic. So when it comes and zooms in, and then it comes to life.
Oh,
it
yeah.
is the room that we're in. Yeah, a lot of symbolism going on.
There is, and you know what? I'll tell you this right now. We will not be able to get to all of it.
Yeah.
We will not be able to pull out every single symbol, because every time I watch this movie, I guarantee you I've seen this movie. I've seen it 10 plus times. My best friend back from Memphis, Derek, he loves this movie, and he's the one that put me onto this the first time. And he said COVID was a hell of a drug. He watched this movie about 12 times during COVID. But yeah, it's an incredible watch. It's a great watch, but you do notice something different every single time you see it.
Yep.
And it's almost like if you don't pay attention, you won't be scared.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like if you watch this movie.
You know, that's true. My mom was the one who, and she likes horror movies too. She's all right with it. But I was like, this is probably, of all the lineup we've had in this series, this one I was probably the most freaked out. This is the one during watching it I was the most freaked out. But I said something to my mom. I'm like, oh my gosh, have you seen this? And she's like, oh yeah, I did see that one. It was all right. I didn't really get that scared. And I was like, well, did you see this? And did you see this? And she goes, oh, I didn't notice any of that.
Yeah, see?
I'm like, you weren't paying attention. You got to watch it again.
It's very subtle. There's so many subtle little things, and it takes you off guard. It's a boring watch if you don't pay attention.
I know.
It really is. It's a boring watch, and that means
what's happening?
Yeah, you've got to really look at this movie from a different perspective when you're watching it, and sure, watch it for what it is the first time, and then when you start thinking about stuff, you go back and be like, oh my gosh, they did this. Ari did all that for a reason. Like, it was all on purpose.
It's brilliant.
It
is brilliant.
The opening of the movie basically is when Toni Collette, her mom in the movie, has passed. And yeah, we'll get to Toni Collette. But her mom in the movie has passed, and they are in this cemetery right here where we sit, this mountain right. Still a little weirded out. But
yeah,
they
just kind of feel like it's just kind of a your good old average old lady dies. And
it is. And then you get to the funeral here, and there's even subtle references here, because she even says so many new strange faces here.
Yeah,
my mom would have been.
Where did you all come from? I didn't see any of you in the last several years, and like, you know, kind of a vibe. Ever
in your entire and my mom's the whole life. So who are these people that were here? First of all, you got these unsettling. It's an unsettling eulogy, really. Like, the whole thing is weird. It's awkward. I've been to funerals. They're not fun. They're weird and awkward already. Yeah. This one takes it to another level already.
Yeah, the people, there's certain faces that you see later in the movie. So if you're not paying attention, you'll see like, oh, these people that are at this funeral, they kind of give the little girl a look.
Yeah.
This one guy, and you see him later.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. So you got all this stuff already setting up in the beginning opening scene that appears to be a normal funeral. It is not. It's Annie is Toni Collette's character. So Annie's mom is the one that passes away. Charlie is the daughter. And you already see that she's a little quirky.
Yeah.
Is that the best way to put that?
Yeah. She's probably born with some
abnormalities. Yep.
And some, she talks about like, they are sure to mention, like, she takes out a candy bar and they're like, oh, does that have peanuts in it? She's got allergies.
Yeah.
I mean, there's things. That's a really interesting thing that we'll talk about later when we talk about what may be going on with the daughter, which is, you know, that she's born with some illnesses and some abnormalities that kind of hint at maybe there's a connection there.
It does, and she gives off the vibe. She's the actor who played Charlie's amazing too, because the role for that is
everybody's so good,
tough, and it's an incredible performance. But she really does. She basically embodies nope. I don't want nothing to do with that. Like, it's a weird feeling, and you see more of that later on. Millie Shapiro, that's who plays Charlie. Did you know she had
incredible.
Did you know that the sound that is now etched in horror iconic, that she had to perfect that. She learned how to do that.
Yeah, it reminds me of The Grudge.
It does.
Or like Yeah, I remember when the Grudge came out. This movie, for some reason, it kept bringing up Grudge
Yeah.
vibes. For I can't exactly pinpoint why, but that sound from the Grudge that was, and everybody was hearing
Oh,
it.
yeah.
And
Oh,
it would
yeah.
it would like freak us out. That became that, and I swear, the night that we watched it, the middle of the night while I was sleeping, I
Same.
swear I heard it.
Same. And I guarantee you, other people here. I don't know how
I was
that
like,
happens,
What was that?
but it's wild. It's that
Yeah.
sound effect. I thought I just heard it here. Man, I can't. I'm. What are we
It'll
doing
get
out
you.
here in a cemetery? That's what.
It'll be like right behind you in your ear. Yeah, that's brilliant though. I mean, if you really want to get into somebody's psyche and be like the psychological thrillers like this that are just they dig deep, burrowed into your subconscious, so that
You know what? Let me go off on a rant here for just a minute, because I want to say back in my day, but it's not that. I'm not that old. But
Yeah.
there was
I
a
know.
time for us where horror movies at least had the decency to show you who's going to get sliced up and diced up at the beginning. Like, you knew who it was. But now we've got this psychological warfare
Yeah.
that
It'll stay with you long after.
instead of a 90-minute slasher film, we know what's going to happen. We see it.
Yeah.
We can watch the
Kinda
2-minute
cut and
trailer.
dry. Yeah.
And we see the whole movie from 2-minute trailer. No. You got to sit here and basically we're getting swindled out there.
Yeah.
We're getting swindled out, and we're getting brought in here like this is a family drama movie, like I said. And then
I know.
the pants scared off of us because, man,
Yeah, I couldn't have told from the trailer or from the the poster of this movie, Hereditary. I would not be able to look at it and be like, okay, I know what's happening here. I know who the killer is. Or
Yeah.
I know what's gonna happen. Would never have been able to do that.
so past the cemetery, we're at basically the next little bit of the movie, and this is where the creepiness, it amps up quite a bit.
Yeah.
You got Annie making these tiny little doll houses. She's
Which
getting
I am absolutely fascinated by. I went to like a miniatures museum in Chicago one time. They had an exhibit with like a whole room full of miniature doll houses and stuff, and I was fascinated. Things that are like teeny tiny but look real. That was like probably one of my favorite parts of the movie. I was like, oh, this is amazing. Look at this. She's an artist.
those things were incredible. The miniatures they had on set were awesome. Honestly, the scene later on where it all gets torn up, I go, oh, I cringe. I'm
I
like,
did too.
yeah,
I
'cause
was like, no, but that's indicative of a mother artist. You never have time to really like devote to the craft. So I really felt for her in that
yeah,
moment. But yeah, you got to pay attention to those scenes though, because each one is like a little clue. And it'll narrow in on that, and it'll show you something that's going on, and you're like, wait, what does that have to do with anything? And you see it throw back.
and it gets darker and darker. And basically, these are little shrines that she's building towards her family dysfunction, I think is what it is. It's like she's building these little things, and she knows it in her head, or maybe it's some other supernatural, whatever's going on.
I thought maybe this was just her artistic expression and way of like processing grief, processing what traumatic things she'd experienced in her life. And I mean, that's kind of brilliant.
Which
like,
that's
genius.
You are a connoisseur of those kind of things,
exactly.
right? Don't you know quite a bit?
I have a lot of respect for that, because that's what we
IPT?
do in integrated processing technique, the healing work that I do. I don't necessarily the way that it works. It's not with art, but I have partnered it with art so that people can paint out their feelings, emotions, and grief, and whatever heaviness that they've got going on. So I had a lot of respect for that part of the movie, thinking, oh, she's as morbid as it seemed, because I could see the husband in certain parts when certain traumatic things have happened.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What if our son sees this? He lived through it, and she's like, she's doing it as if she has no problem with it at all. Like it's not traumatic to her. I think that's kind of amazing.
Even the one that really bothered me was the telephone pole.
The telephone pole. Yep.
And she's just doing
She
it.
was painting the blood on the asphalt.
Yeah,
when he
and now
comes in, and I was like, ugh.
So don't forget about Peter, the teenage son. He's got his own issues, and he's the one who goes to the party with Charlie.
Yeah.
Charlie has a reaction because she eats nuts, something with nuts in it.
Yeah, the cake has walnuts
The
in
cake,
it.
yep. And then she goes
She goes into, what is that called? Hyper something.
Oh yeah,
shock,
yeah.
you
You
know,
need an EpiPen
throats.
basically. You
Yeah.
should have EpiPen and
Why
jab
they
in.
didn't have an EpiPen with them?
I don't know.
I kept shouting that at the TV screen the whole time. I'm like, where's your EpiPen?
Yeah,
Clearly she needs it.
you would think somebody had one or somebody at that party, but then again, yeah, we know that this is gonna go off the rails anyway, and
Yeah.
this is where we really go off the rails. And if we haven't been creeped out already, well, we get a little gore.
Oh, it was pretty horrific.
They don't.
That whole scene,
They don't
driving
shy.
down the road, swerving to not hit the deer. I was like, "Ugh!" I don't think I breathed the entire time.
Nah.
And then when he's sitting in the car and everybody's just frozen,
He knew.
it's like prolonged, right? Like that scene just goes on
Oh.
forever, and you're like, no, no, no. I just remember sitting on my couch, just being like, no, he's gonna look in the rearview mirror
And, yeah. And
into
he,
the back seat, and I was like, no, no, no.
and he doesn't though. Like they.
Ugh.
It's.
Can't even.
I can't imagine the way that that's made and filmed. That's more realistic. Now this is realistic horror. Is what this is,
Yeah.
because
It hits you right in the feels.
it does, and you're like, oh, what would I do? Or oh, what? I don't
know.
Oh,
the
and,
trauma of living through that poor boy. I just kept thinking, oh, that poor kid.
and that's only the beginning of the trauma in this movie, because
Yeah, that's just where it begins.
it is really that is kind of where it begins. Because after that, we start delving even deeper into just misery, grief, and we get to see the performance of Toni Collette from the beginning of this movie all the way, how she goes.
She's incredible, isn't she?
Who won the Oscar that year?
Oh, I don't know.
Exactly, and Toni Collette should have, and she didn't even get a nomination, I believe. For
She's
that.
incredible. Did you ever see United States of Terror?
I did,
TV
yeah.
series that she was in? Her ability to switch personalities, voice, her entire facial expression, everything is incredible. And you see that in this movie a couple of times.
Oh, a lot
where
of
she
times.
just switches and she's different. I was trying to dress like her. I was like, I'm gonna dress for the movie today, and then I realized, well, that's just kind of how I dress all the time, actually.
Yeah.
The way that she's dressed as mom in this movie.
And Toni Collette, I just gotta tell you that we're sitting right here in the cemetery, and this is where all validity for the Oscars should be buried right here, because
The grief.
she not even being nominated. I don't care about no rules about it came out
Genres.
of this certain time of the year, or this and that. No. She should be an honorary Oscar winner for that performance.
For
But
sure.
yeah, go ahead. That's my.
The grief that she's expressing.
I
mean,
still
just,
feel it.
Oh, it's cellular level grief.
If
Like
I-
just pouring out of her body.
If
when
I
she's
s-
grieving for her daughter.
If I saw her on the street, I would give Toni Collette a hug. Like I would. I would be like, oh
I
my
know.
gosh. I am so sorry for
Lost
what
your
you've
daughter.
been through. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Toni Collette,
Your
our heart
mother
goes.
and then your daughter. Yeah, but pay attention to that sigil that it's on her necklace in the funeral scene of her mom. A necklace possibly, we assume was given to her by her mother.
Yeah.
So that same sigil, that same symbol is on the telephone pole,
And
right?
let's get into this now. Let's get into the supernatural, to the whatever. Is it cult? What is it? What's
Yeah.
happening here?
I think we're meant to believe that this is a coven
Coven.
that she discovers her mother was a part of, and this woman that she meets in the grief counseling, she goes and she talks about her mother's life and her brother committing suicide, and she does say, you have to pay attention again, she says in that scene, he was trying to put people in him or something.
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. The quote, she goes, he committed suicide
She put voices in him.
Yeah.
She put voices in him, or put him in him.
You
Yes.
find out later what that really was and what was really going on, or at least what a lot of theories are. I mean, I think that nothing is laid out quite so simple in this movie, so you have to kind of assume and
Yeah.
kind of piece together the puzzles. But basically, that this coven, I prefer to call it a cult, okay? Because a coven to me is something lovingly pieced together,
Yes,
with
yes,
love and
yes.
light, and I would rather keep it that way in my mind. But this is definitely basically a demon summoning cult that her mother had been a part of, and this woman that she meets in the movie. And what they really are doing is they're trying to revive or to possess someone with the demon of Paimon,
Okay.
who is a king of hell.
Oh.
He's one of Lucifer's most loyal demons
Okay.
of hell.
This is a real demon. Now. This is real.
Well, real.
Well, yeah, but we've had other movies where they've made up
Yeah.
stuff.
This is something that is
The
in
Blair Witch was made
folklore.
up.
Yeah.
Like this is
Yeah.
actually in.
Yeah, and
real.
that sigil is from ancient scripts. Like that's why it's a little bit like I almost wish it was made up for the movie, because when you're like kind of playing around with symbols and you're putting it on the telephone pole and you're putting it in the movie, I feel like you're asking for trouble.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's just me. But yeah, so you see that symbol throughout the whole movie. It's like etched into the attic where the body was found. Skipping around a little bit.
That's fine. We don't have to go in order. Well, I
Yeah.
want to talk about the movie just overall because
Yeah.
there's all these symbols add up to what's really going on.
So
And
Paimon he's a king of one of the kings of Solomon from the Book of Solomon, and in like the Greek version of the book talks about him. There's a lot of like references of him. Some mention him with a woman's face, and some of them don't mention him with a face at all. But the pictures that we have of him, he's riding a camel, and he has 3 severed heads.
okay.
So it's interesting because I wonder, is the sacrifice to Paimon or something to do with summoning Paimon have to do with 3 severed heads? Because by the end of the movie, we have 3
Wow.
severed heads, right?
Let's see. That's what we have you here for. That kind of insight.
It's very interesting. And
That's-
you see the triangle, the symbol
Yes.
of the triangle quite a bit. It's in the floor of the grandma's room. And when the woman that she meets
Oh yeah.
has it in her altar space. When you see it, she's knocking on the outside and she doesn't get inside, but you can see the inside of her apartment. Has the triangle. That representative of like a conjuring. So there's a lot of like little references, those words etched into the wall behind Charlie's
Oh, yeah.
bed. And she even makes that in the miniatures, right? She's
Yeah.
even like writing that tiny little, so you have the word Satani, which is basically a summoning word for necromancy, like bringing back to life.
Okay.
These are words that you also hear the woman shouting at Peter when he's at school, and she's like doing that spell on him. She's dispelling his spirit from his body to make way for Paimon to use his body. But it's believed, a lot of people watching this movie said that Charlie, the girl, was actually Paimon. Like
Yeah.
she was born with Paimon's spirit from this coven. So the mom had grabbed hold of her, got her claws in her, as Annie says in that one scene. So she's like, my mom had got her claws in Charlie. She didn't get my son because they were estranged at the time.
Uh-huh.
And I think the grandma, Annie's mother, was trying to possess her son. And that's why he committed suicide from trying to put voices in his head.
Inside of him. That's an amazing.
So this cult was actually, just trying to get this demon. They're all a cult of this demon, Paimon, and they're trying to get him a body.
Yeah.
But he needs a male body.
A vessel.
He needs a vessel. And it needs to be male. Charlie ended up being born a female. So you see that scene in the miniatures where she's trying to feed the baby. You see the mom like trying to breastfeed the baby.
Yes.
And
Yes.
she's like she was trying to do all of the rituals and summoning and spells and whatever you want to call it to get the baby possessed with Paimon's spirit. So it was successful with Charlie. Charlie was Paimon from birth. And then when she died, which was actually planned, hence the sigil on the telephone pole.
Absolutely.
It was like made to happen so that the spirit would be free to then embody Peter. So the whole thing was getting Peter ready for him to be possessed with this demon.
Wow.
There you go.
Look at this.
Watch the movie first before you listen to all that.
Because
I just spoiled it all for you. But yeah,
but
interesting, right?
It's very interesting. And you mentioned the lady that she meets at the grocery store here.
Yes.
Now this is when
Yes.
in this movie,
She's fantastic too.
She is. This movie just keeps delving off into chaos, like
Yeah.
further into the darkest holes you can go. And she meets this lady, and she says something about a seance, basically. And Toni Collette, Annie, laughs
She's
it
like,
off.
you can see your daughter again. I
Yeah.
saw my grandson. She thought she met her just like grief counseling, like this grief support group, when actually she wasn't part of that group at all. She just like showed up and got her little claws into Annie and was like, come on, you can do this. You can do this with me. I know it sounds crazy, but you can summon spirits. And I went to this seance and it changed my life. And I will say, just side note on that, I do believe in mediumship. I do believe in ethical mediumship. So anybody that's, trying to play upon your grief or, using your grief for earning money or, just be real cautious and careful with people who claim to be a medium or who can do a seance and contact your loved ones. First of all, make sure it's consensual and that they're ethical about it. And that's all I have to say about that.
None of
part
this
the movie.
Miss Cleo stuff. Remember Miss Cleo? She made a whole bunch of money and then came out as a fraud and then made a whole bunch more money even.
Yeah.
Don't be
there
that.
are certain mediums I think that, and I don't even mind mediums charging for their services. I just think that people need to be cautious about, trust your instinct when you meet someone who's like, I can contact your loved ones from beyond and
$19.95 one-time payment.
Yeah.
Don't fall for that.
No. Just you can feel it when it's
Okay.
like I feel good about this person or I feel kind of like ew. Yeah, so this woman kind of preyed upon her because she's
did.
like, you're grieving for your daughter. You can talk to her again. I promise. I talked to my grandson. He was there. It was Paimon the whole time.
Wow. And then we get the seance scene with Annie, Charlie, the dad.
Yeah, she brings them all in. She's
Well,
like,
I mean Peter the son, I guess.
Peter, yeah, they're freaking out.
Yeah. This is in this scene.
It's fantastic.
It is, and it's one of those. Once again, it drags on. It's like you're like, oh my gosh.
A lot of like long pauses and silences where you're like, what is happening? What's gonna happen? And it just builds the intensity.
They really, Ari Aster really. We're like a cat's toy. He's out there just doing this with us.
I know,
Like that's
right?
what it is.
Yeah.
The entire movie we're getting beat up on, knowing that he can go in for the kill at any minute, but it's just relentless.
And that scene ends up kind of like it builds up and builds up and builds up. And when Charlie's voice comes out of her mouth,
Ooh, that's wild.
that's when I'm talking Oscar worthy
Oh.
because she changes from the mom, from Annie, into Charlie.
Charlie,
like
right
that.
there.
And her voice that comes out of her mouth, oh, it's crazy. But then it kind of falls flat, right? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't really give you the
Yeah,
horror like thing you're waiting for because it kind of teases you. Right?
it does.
Till later.
What happens later?
Oh my gosh. Just when it really hits the fan, like when the climax of the movie starts hitting, all I want to say is don't be fooled by the action happening in the scene. Make sure you look around in the shadows.
Yes.
Pay attention to what's going on in the dark because there's so much going on that if you were just watching the action, you'd be like, this is so boring. Peter is taking forever to get out of bed.
Yep.
That scene, right?
Yep.
Where he's like, Mom?
This is the entire end, the entire climax, the pinnacle here basically was a stage play. It's everything has got to be perfect or that doesn't happen. The entire scene can't happen. Right? Like it had to have been almost, it definitely was. It was definitely choreographed, we'll call it.
Yeah.
Because everything had to line
fluid,
up.
yeah.
It did. It had to line up perfectly or else none of that can happen. Walk us through that scene.
Ugh. Well, basically Annie, now possessed
Yes.
with Paimon, okay? Dad's dead.
Oh, yeah.
In a horrific blaze of fire that Annie was trying to avoid. She was trying to say, like, you got to do this. I can't do it. But she was willing to sacrifice her own life to destroy the journal, to get, to end this whole nightmare. But when she threw it in the fire herself, it wasn't her that lit on fire. It was her husband.
Yeah.
Right. And he lights up. He's gone. And Peter's just waking up from his incident at school, and he's like looking for her. She's already there in the room.
And it's just, there's all
There's
kinds
this whole chase happening. He runs into the attic. She's banging her head on the attic door. That part freaked me out.
yeah.
I was like, oh, like that was when I started watching through my fingers by that point, when she's like trying to get into the attic. And some people asked online, they were like, well, how does she get into the attic? Because he closes the door, but there's people in the attic. There's people from the cult already waiting, already in the attic. And so when he turns around, when he finds the body missing and he turns around, she's already up there with him.
just intense. It's scary. It's so horror movies don't really scare too many people out there. There's a lot of people who can really handle them and watch them and love them because they can see through it and they're like, I get it. This is that. No, not this one though. Like this is one that will stick with you. It will scar you.
Yeah.
I'm warning you. It will scar you out there if you watch this movie.
Yeah, I think it's because it runs through a family.
Yes.
And no one, again, like most of our a lot of our movies in this series, we've said there's no happy ending. You don't see them like make it out alive, or you don't see Peter like, you know, in those old movies when it was like Peter's the lone survivor and someone's putting a blanket around him and he's getting put in an ambulance and everybody's like, it's okay, it's gonna be all right. This is what you want to happen.
Yeah.
It does not happen.
The good old days of horror movies. They tied things up with neat, bloody bow, right?
Basically, the cult wins in this one. I mean, this is they achieve what they set out to achieve, which was to get Paimon a body to inhabit, and that's what happened.
And it leaves it kind of open. Like I mean, we're sitting here interpreting the movie. And this movie's been out for a while, and people are still interpreting different parts of it and picking out little pieces and saying, "Oh, well, wait a minute." I mean, you pulled out the 3 heads thing. Like that's amazing.
So the grandma, Charlie, and Annie, eventually beheads herself.
Yep.
And I think they needed the 3 heads in order to conduct the
To
ritual.
get Paimon
it had
there.
to be like
Okay.
their payment for conjuring him and having him come back in a body.
And then so the movie ends, and we're left at home still questioning our sanity even more than
I know
when we started, right? Like that's see, we're sitting here now. I'm like,
Maybe
what
I should
did
watch
we
that
watch?
again.
Yeah, I'm like, what did we see? I mean, the
That's
movie's
exactly.
incredible.
Yeah, this is the only one that after the end, I watched all of them with my husband. We watched them together. And by the end of all of them, even like Suspiria, which was real gory at the end there, I turned the TV off and I was like, all right, time to go get ready for bed.
Yeah, I can go.
I
can sleep comfortable tonight. Yeah.
This was the only one that I was like, Matt said, oh, I've already gotten ready for bed, so I'm just going to head up to bed. And I was like, you're going to leave me
You're
alone?
like, hey, turn the lights on. Turn the lights on. Keep the lights on.
I think you should just come with me and we'll go and I'll get ready for bed and you'll stand there next to me while I get ready for bed. And then we'll go upstairs together in the dark together.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This movie, it still bothers me now. Like, it's. What are your final thoughts? What do you have any more points you got to hit? I know we could talk about it forever.
We could. I know. But I do want to point out, I still want to claim that this isn't technically a witch movie.
Yes.
I would like to say that because I would like to say this group of people, even though they're conducting rituals and spells, the way that I like to view and portray a witch or a pagan or someone who maybe operates in a spirituality closer to mine, this would be more like a cult than it would be a coven of witches. So that would be my final thought, is maybe take that part loosely and enjoy the movie for the entertainment that it is.
Absolutely. The miserable entertainment that it is, right? Yeah. My final thought on this movie is Toni Collette, damn it. An Oscar. Get her one now.
Yep.
That's it. That's all I got to say about it.
I'll present it to her myself.
You know what, though? This is, right? We'll get it. We will make an Oscar.
We'll bring it to her.
And we'll get Toni Collette.
Okay, Toni.
But
reach out. We got you, girl.
We might as well wrap this whole thing up because this is the end. This is the end of the project, but maybe it's just the end of season 1 because I looked and I saw that they had 167 more witch movies and on IMDb. Are you ready
Oh,
to
yeah.
go through some more?
Maybe not 167, but for sure, let's work through that list. We can get season 2
Maybe it'll be something different.
ready for.
Maybe it'll be something different. I mean, this first season, it was only going to be at first it was a pipe dream, and then it turned into real stuff, and then we started watching
Limited
movies.
series.
And then we ended up with
Lots of fun.
with Robin Lively herself. We had
Whew.
Ryan Bartley from her anime queen out there from different movies and stuff. And then we're here. This is our guest. Our final guest is the on location set. Like, we took this thing and ran with it. Now,
It's been a blast.
I want to hear what other people out there got to say and what they want to see us do next, because I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe we can do some gory movies, you know, the kinds I like, where they have a mask on and they got a knife and you know who it is, and that's it.
Yeah, and I will agree with you. On the next time we do a live podcast event,
Yes.
let's do adults only, and we'll do one of the hardcore ones.
Art the Clown,
Autopsy of Jane
the
Doe.
Terrifiers and stuff. Oh, okay, yeah. We'll do the Autopsy of Jane Doe.
I owe you that, but I feel like we need a good group of adults
Yes.
that are into that kind of thing that can really enjoy it with us. I think that would be a blast.
I'm down. We should screen it in a cemetery. How about that?
Yeah.
Maybe in a morgue.
Ooh.
Anybody out there know a morgue we can film the next live podcast taping in? But I'd love to do that. That'd be fun.
Yeah, reach out.
Yeah,
That would
reach
be
out to us until the end. That's us. That's it.